My name is Micah Henderson. I'm going to be our main presenter today, but I talk too much in most occasions. And so I would tell you that as I'm talking and kind of presenting a little bit of what we put together for you guys, feel free to raise your hand with the emojis. If you don't know where the emojis are, they're at the bottom of your screen. A reaction is what they're called. You can raise your hand. You can thumbs up, whatever. You can also use the chat. Somebody's going to be monitoring the chat. I think that's B, right? And basically, Lee is here to tell me when I'm talking too much and I need to take a breath. So feel free to ask questions, bust in, etc. But what we are doing today is we're kind of introducing operations management of an adventure-based business. And we happen to come from the zipline and challenge course industry, but we also come from a whole lot of other outdoor industry pieces, backpacking, rock climbing, river, etc. And so what we're doing with this is kind of trying to say how all those things are alike as business comes together, and start a series that we will focus on each one of them. So myself and Lee and Michelle and B are all owners of Adventure Careers, which is who's presenting this. We all come from a different background. So right now I own a zipline tour in Texas. I grew up as a trainer, inspector, designer, and a whole bunch of other things for like 25 years. And you'll see that each of us has our own little specialty. Like Lee's real into team building and knows everybody anywhere. Michelle is nonprofit, government agency, and has been a manager of a course for a long time. And B, same thing. She's done everything. So in general, that's who we are, and you might know us, you might not know us, but we want you to at least connect our faces and feel comfortable asking questions or even challenging kind of like what we're talking about. That's the reason for this. I think Michelle's trying to say something.
I was just going to add that we do have another business partner, John JT Turman, who is not able to be on our call tonight, but he is also one of the fabulous five.
Yes, he's doing something in Hawaii today with industry. So we are actively working in the industry, all the people. Awesome. So the management areas that we had on the kind of like, are you interested list are business planning, finance, accounting, insurance, human resources, inspection, training, reservation platforms, guest services, and retail. The reason that these are in a list is because the back end work that goes into this is something that has to be set up in a new business. It's something that has to be maintained in an existing business. And it is a whole lot of, I would call it not boring. It's just a whole lot of back end stuff that's not as sexy as being an actual guide and working with people directly. And so this part of what goes into the back end is what we're doing this session about. And we're going to administrative stuff. I like it. We're going to actually spend a little time on each one of these, but we could spend an hour on each one of these in particular. And our goal and plan is to see what people are interested in and actually start hosting a session on each one of these each month as we kind of move forward. We'll record them each time, and we want to be able to make them available to people to listen to whenever they have time. So you guys are going to be our first chatty group, and we will get kicked off with. So we're going to start with business planning. So business planning, if you already work somewhere, they already have a plan. You may find that it is written. You may find that it is not. You may find that it's more kind of like an accidentally thing. But typically, business planning is something where you're determining where to build something, where to put something, what you need, etc. So you'll see these things on the left. These are things that need to be decided when planning a business. So your location, your services that you're going to offer, maybe that's zip lines, maybe it's adventure park, maybe it's rafting, maybe it's whatever. Who your customer base is going to be, what stuff you got to get together. Like you need boats, or you need a course, or you need vans, or you need, those things. How you're going to pay for it all. That's funding. And then legal entity is how you get all those parts of business registered through the Secretary of State and the tax offices and stuff like that, so that it becomes a legitimate business. Many times you do that with other people in a business, so you have multiple owners. And what the number 7 is called an operating agreement. And that is a legal agreement between the group of owners that help you make a plan for when you don't want to be an owner anymore, or when you have something happen to one of you, or when you want to bring in a new owner. And so the operating agreement is an important step in kind of defining how you're going to have a relationship with the other business partners that you're talking about. The right side of the screen is a little bit of the questions that you want to ask yourself as you're putting together a business. What problems are you hoping to solve? What makes you different than other people that are doing the same things nearby? Why are you going to be the one that's successful at it? Who do you need to convince, like a bank or the public or whatever that is around you? What do you need to start it? What's your timeline? What help do you need, etc.? And business planning is an entire step that goes in. We actually have a resource listed here. Oh, I should have. Let me pull it up here. Live plan. Because Michelle's sharing her screen. Michelle, I may need to share my screen to show the resource.
I have, you are a co-presenter.
Okay. There we are. I'm pulling it up here real quick. That one. Archived. Oh, I can't pull it up. It's all right. Anyway, what this is it's basically like a.
Hang on, I'll go get it.
Okay, thanks. You could even pull up our business plan if you will share it. It's in the drive. But what this is it's the way to kind of build the written part of a plan. And many times when you want to start a business, you need funding to get it started. And that's where your other owners come in. That's where banks come in to lend you money. So this particular tutorial, it's kind of like you can use AI in it and all sorts of things to make the things you type and write sound fancy. But it helps you really kind of go through each step of the business idea and what it's going to cost and how it's going to function and work. And many times when you're trying to actually get funding or get somebody talked into supporting your business, you need to kind of have one of these together. So this business plan is I want to say it was like 30 pages long, but you'll see it has kind of different components. This tool that I said in the resources is actually what walks you through this process. So this is talking about our business, Adventure Careers. Go ahead and scroll kind of quickly. What problem are you solving? Who's your target market? Competition, pros, cons. So this is actually writing out what your vision is. And that's why I say some of us in the outdoor industry have this written down. But most of us like to work outside and don't like to type things and write things and get documentation for it. And so in general, it's not actually a very common document. But one of these reasons you do this is to check back in with it and see how you have been accomplishing your business plan.
There's our milestone and metrics. Look at that.
Look at that. Yeah. And then, you can go back to the screen. But I wanted to kind of start there and see where you guys are coming from if you are interested in starting a business or if more you're interested in walking into something that's already been put together for you. Just kind of a general, give me an idea. You can write it in the chat or unmute yourself.
So I am close to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is a pretty large city. There used to be a Go Ape here, but it's since shut down. I think it was they wanted to expand, but they weren't able to because of city limitations. So I feel like it's a really good place. There's not a whole lot of competition. I mean, Brittany's close by, but other than that, I feel like it would be a pretty good area to start from the beginning and build something here.
Very cool. Yeah. It'd be a good idea to look at it from a business planning perspective and figure out if there's any way to find out what caused it to fail, right? and that'd be good. But GoApe is a very specific model of a business, and they repeat that same business model every location, like a franchise. And so it's kind of nice for it to be a franchise because you already have the written plan in front of you. But different markets, you have to adapt it. Very cool. Anyone else have a goal or opinion on if you are trying to get into something or just trying to learn more about what you're already in?
I'm just trying to learn more about the management procedures. I'm already like a supervisor for ski school. That's kind of my winter leadership position. And I would really love to expand to being able to do like another management position during the summer, especially in an outdoor field. I love the zip line. I love the treetop obstacle course. And I just want to be able to kind of make it like a career that I can continue to grow in and spend like the rest of a lifetime in.
Awesome. We love hearing that. That's the kind of people we're trying to help grow. That's right. Anyone else?
So I'm helping to manage now. It's already established. We've got our canopy tour and the Treetop Adventure Park. It's like a trekking course. But we just had a change of ownership and giving me some kind of freedom with trying to expand if we can. And so now we're just looking to what we want to do is more of an adventure park than just a canopy tour. So that's kind of where we're at.
Very cool. Yeah. Awesome. Well, feel free to share along the way. Like I said, we can spend an entire hour on how to get started with that business plan. And we will do a session on business planning for you if you want to spend more time on it. But feel free to kind of ask questions a little bit as we go. But that definitely is a part of the back end that happened maybe before your time, and maybe you're about to embark on it yourself. The money part of it is the next part of the back end. And when you talk about money, you think, I think, about paying for the thing to get built and then paying staff. But there is so much more depth to money. And so finance is the word in here, and accounting is a word in here. But some of the things that have to happen with money is you actually have to have a bank account. And you wouldn't know this, but in general, when you start a business and you just use your personal bank account, you can accidentally quickly get your own personal finances confused with the business finances and make for a really tough tax season. So typically you set up your entity and things of that sort back in your business planning, which is your legal business name and things like that. And then once that exists, you go to a bank and you set up a business account. And business accounts are just a little different than personal accounts, but basically work the same way. It's keeping your money separate for the business from your personal. Your bank accounts exist, but keeping track of the money in and money out is called bookkeeping. And this is where you see, like, when you have to submit receipts for stuff and somebody somewhere cares about that because they want to know what category it falls in and what you spent the money on and why you spent the money. So that goes into the bookkeeping software. A lot of people use QuickBooks. It's a really commonly known accounting software, but there's a lot of other kinds of accounting software as well. But bookkeeping is a thing that can happen in-house at your operation, or a thing that you hire somebody that's not in your office every day to do. And typically bookkeepers need to know a little bit about how they're setting up the books and how they're actually entering deposits and entering expenses. So that's what the word bookkeeping is. Bookkeeping is different than a CPA. So a CPA is a certified public accountant, and that's who actually helps you file your taxes. And so your taxes have to be filed by somebody that can actually make sense of them correctly for the government. But that's the person, that's like the professional. So you've got all these different things, and it's not just money in, money out. You got to make that plan for that money. And the plan is typically called your budget. And budgeting is what you project you will need to bring money in and what you project you're going to need to spend in the money out. And you can enter your budget with the bookkeeping software, and you can check on how you're doing throughout the year. So if you've ever been in a business that likes to share the finance information with you. Like if you become a manager of a different business and they share a profit and loss or a budget to actual, the profit and loss is kind of like category wise, all the money in, money out, and tells you at the bottom if you made a profit or if you had a loss that month or that year or whatever. The budget to actuals has your plan next to your actual spending so that you can see how closely those two line up. So that's a little bit of basics of money and back end. The basics of money and back end doesn't happen in cash very often anymore. We do have to deal with cash, but most of the time it's credit card transactions, and you need some kind of a way for people to use their credit card to buy things. So you've got to enter your credit card information or tap your credit card information or whatever. That's typically known as a point of sale system. And some reservation platforms have, most reservation platforms have a point of sale, but the point of sale itself would also be like Square. So if you've been to like a restaurant and they spin the thing around in Square. So those are like point of sale systems that you can have. And they each have to be built in the back end, kind of like digitally. And they each have to talk to your bank accounts. And sometimes your bank accounts have to talk to the bookkeeping software. And sometimes your CPA has to be able to log into the bookkeeping software to see the bank accounts. So all these things get really interconnected on the back end. And there is physical data entry work that has to happen. Taxes is another thing, and it's different state by state, but everybody everywhere in the US has sales tax, and sales tax is a thing you pay every month, and you got to go into a different system in that state and enter the sales tax and calculate it and pay it that way. So that's on the stuff you're selling. You got payroll taxes, you got federal taxes, you got taxes coming out every direction, and each of those have a different entity in a jurisdiction that you have to talk with. Payroll is another platform that you do, and that actually brings people's hours that they've worked into the system, or their salaries or whatever, and it's the system that actually pulls from the bank account to put the direct deposit in your account or to print the check. And so all of these pieces of finance and accounting are able to be done in-house, but you have to know enough about each part of these to be able to do it well. Because if you can't do the bookkeeping well, then your taxes are going to fall apart and your bank accounts are going to overdraw and things of that sort. And so it all kind of plays into one system. And anytime you're talking about a business, somebody in that business is on the back end of this. If you hired out third party, like a company does that for you, that company has to really get to know you and how you do your business on the day-to-day so that they can be as much of a help to you as possible instead of a hindrance because they don't understand you. So I'm going to pause and hear a little bit about other thoughts on financing and accounting and any kind of questions or things as we're looking over here at the questions on the right side of the page.
Micah, I might just also add in with respect to your comments about budgeting. It's not only important to have those budget to actuals for each year, but to be able to go back and look at 2-year, 3-year, 4-year trends when you're starting to forecast or assess growth, business growth, and then look at either building capacity or expansion or capital improvements and things of that nature. So while it is the least favorite thing that I probably work with or do within my organization, it is probably one of the most important is to have that good solid budget and be able to kind of use it as a tool.
Awesome. Raise your hand with the emoji if you interact with finance and accounting on a regular basis at your business you work at now. He has one. Okay, if you don't, then some of the, oh, Christina's is here. Good. If you don't currently interact with it, this may be a session you'd want to actually get some more. Oh, good, Steve. Get some more information on the details of this one. Like I said, we can spend an hour on that as well. But that is a major part of the back end of the work of a business. Cool. Let's move on to the next one. We don't have all the time in the world today, but we at least have the ability to introduce these things. So insurance is the next one. And insurance is a funny one. You got to buy policies. So you pay money out and they are there in case something happens. You make a claim and then they pay for the fallout of whatever it is that happens. So I say that in a very dumbed down version of insurance. This is like your car insurance, right? You hope you don't have to use it, but then when you do use it, it goes up, it has payouts, etc. So in our adventure businesses, there are basically a few different kinds that I wanted to touch on today. So our adventure business is typically risky. In some way, we're getting people outside in the environment. We are doing something fun and exciting that has some risk involved in it. And so we're really trying to assess those risks. And so is the insurance agent. So when your insurance agent is giving you a price, they're asking you a ton of questions about your business and your business plan so that they can actually assess the risk that's involved with making a policy for you. And they aren't required to make a policy for you. They can choose to sell you a policy or not to sell you a policy. So that's the piece of insurance that's kind of different. In some other countries, insurance is part of a government entity that exists, but it's definitely not the US. The US is different with insurance because everybody likes to sue each other in the US. And that is not a common practice in a lot of the other countries as well. So from an insurance perspective, I've listed out some general categories. The first category is just general liability insurance. That means you have a place of business, people come to it, and it kind of covers the fact that people are coming to your business to do things with your business. And if something happens, then you can actually hit this general liability policy. You don't want to, because that general liability policy in our adventure industry is a very high price tag. And so you want to do what you can to not make a claim against this general liability policy. Okay. Some other ones that you have are property insurance, which is the thing you built. So your building or your course or your boats or your whatever it is that you may have. And that property insurance is a little bit different because it's kind of like what happens when a storm comes and blows it all down. And how do you do that? It doesn't happen the same way as your general liability. So if you have like storm damage or whatever, and you make a claim on your property insurance, there is a process in which to get that fixed. And that's what it pays for. So the helpful one to have. Auto is not on here. We should add auto, but auto is another example for a business. You've got to not only cover your vehicle and the damage that might happen to your vehicle, but the humans that are going to drive your vehicle and the places that you're going to drive your vehicle. So it's not always on the highway that you're driving these vehicles. Sometimes they're in off-road environments. So auto policy is another policy I should add into that one. An accident policy. This is basically somebody gets hurt. I can put a claim on an accident policy, and that accident policy basically takes care of their medical bills as they go. So it's a little bit like a reimbursement process. So somebody actually gets hurt and they go to the hospital and you don't want it to hit your general policy. You can activate this accident policy and take the best care of them as possible so that that doesn't actually go to a lawsuit and start having to hit your general liability policy. Try not to hurt people, but if you do hurt people, at least take care of them while they're getting better. Okay. Workers' compensation is typically required by jurisdictions. So it's typically part of the law. You have to have this kind of insurance for your workers. And it is when your workers get hurt. Same kind of thing though. Try to keep your workers from getting hurt. And then they do get hurt. Workers' compensation helps pay for them to get back to work. And that could be coming back to work light duty. That could be coming back to work all the way. But they also pay their medical bills and things like that. So workers' compensation policies sometimes come through the state you're in. Other times you can buy them on the open market. It just depends on your laws and whatever state you're operating. All of this insurance requires you to fill out this application that's forever long, and you have to submit all sorts of documentation to show that you are in fact not a huge risk to take on in these policies. But each one of these policies has an expiration date. It has its own cost associated. It has its own thing. And so you really hire an agent to help organize all these different policies. So typically, if you've worked in our challenge course world, you'll know Cameron Annis or Robert Monahan, and they're kind of the two big players in our particular zipline and adventure park game. They are your agent that helps contact all the different people and convince all these different people that you're not a crazy risk to take on. Some of the things that help them, though, is when you write it all down, like a business plan, when data exists for this risk, like history of our industry that they've been writing policies for, and when certification and accreditation programs exist. So many times they can actually do a better job of convincing the underwriters of the insurance policy if you have enough clout to convince them that you're going to do a better job than Joe Blow down the road. And so that's why it's like, what certifications or accreditations might give us discounts or might make us more able to get insurance. It costs a lot, though. I'm not going to lie. That is a major budget line item for adventure-based businesses. And it's not guaranteed that there's always going to be insurance available for us. So your policies have to change every year because the underwriter got hit with a big accident that they had to pay out on. You know, you get premium increases, not of any fault of your own, but because the industry as a whole got riskier because there was a big incident or accident that paid out on globally. So kind of say all that so you kind of know a little bit of what it is. But when somebody gets hurt, you're right there in the moment, like treating them. You know what I mean? First aid, CPR, etc. Call 911. But when somebody gets hurt, you have to activate the insurance policy by calling and reporting the accident, making a claim, and then that's when all of those people on the back end start to give you a claim number and start to pay for the things and, you know, check in on the person, etc. But that's how insurance works. And I just wanted to give it an overview in case, like me, you didn't know a ton about insurance until you had to start buying it for bigger things. Cool. Human resources. Those are the people, guys. The people we hire, the people that we are as well. And the people we hire, the people we are, there are a lot of laws that are associated with them. So in general, when you're going to be a business and you're going to hire people, you got to pay taxes on them. You got to, you know, pay them hourly. You got to pay them overtime. You got to do all sorts of things as needed. And so the labor laws that are in your particular state matter a lot. And I am in Texas right now with the business. So I am currently aware and interacting with Texas labor laws. So I have to get on our Texas website and enter all the new hires each month. And I have to, you know, report how I'm contributing to society in Texas from a job market perspective. And that's part of our system. Okay. Labor laws also are how many hours they can work at a time, how long of a break they need, how, you know, bathroom breaks and water and basic amenities. Working in California has more labor laws than you expect sometimes. And so in general, labor laws are something you're going to have to be familiar with in order to be managing a business in this industry. You got to get the humans. So job postings and applications, those are pieces of paperwork, and those are marketing things. Where are you looking for these humans? How do they apply? What questions do you ask them, etc. Once you've hired them, onboarding documentation. This is filling out their tax form. This is getting their bank account information. This is getting copies of their certifications and their driver's licenses and their passports and social security cards. There's all sorts of things about documentation that you have to be able to get from them to be able to store in their HR file and pay them legally. Training. You got to teach them how to do their job with you. We all think of training and probably instantly go to like the technical training. This is like where to park, how to clock in, what to wear. And it also keeps going into those technical pieces, but it's a little bit like you can get overwhelmed unless you know all the steps that have to build on the one previous. Mentoring is something we're really into at Adventure Careers, which basically means that as you're an employee somewhere, somebody is mentoring you to learn more in that particular position. And that is a lot of times how you get the experience to be hired in as a manager. So if you're at a job position right now, who is your mentor, right? It may not be our formal title, but in general, who are you looking to mentor you? And how can you communicate better with them to let them know they're actually mentoring you and that you're asking them because you want to learn? So that mentoring type relationship and type culture is helpful to have. If you don't have it, sometimes you have to go out and create it with somebody else that you know that's in your role at a completely different business so that you can get advice from them. Scheduling is part of human resources, and that is typically a task, much like data entry, where you got to build the schedule. You got to make sure the schedule matches the people that are coming that day, make sure it's not going to be too expensive, make sure you have enough people, and make sure the people are available. Typically, there's a program you use for scheduling, and hopefully that program talks to your bookkeeping software so that their hours actually import into the thing that's going to pay them for those hours. So there's some connectivity back in the back row of that one. Payroll is one of those things that happens in your bookkeeping software, and payroll, while paying them their hours, most of us live in a world where we have tips, and tips are when they are digital, tracked, credit card, etc. tips, they go into your bookkeeping software and you have to do something with them. So you have to pay them out individually to whoever those tips go to, and you typically have to put them in the paycheck with payroll taxes taken out. Many times you'll see cash tips. It's like they don't even exist. They just pass right through to you. And it's kind of a funny thing that happens. But that intention with cash tips is that the person that's getting that cash tip is going to claim it on their own personal taxes. And that is the intent. So from a legality perspective, you got to be really careful with tips that you're not reporting as part of income, and do your best to do that with everyone. Go ahead.
Micah typed into the chat employee handbook, just kind of as a note. A lot of us know that there are SOPs or LOPs in our world of aerial adventure parks, challenge courses, zip tours, on how we run the tours or how we run the actual aspect of the adventure. But the employee handbook is completely different and part of your human resources aspect. So if you are in, the business startup world, making sure that you have a very good, solid employee handbook, which outlines policies, not just about code of conduct, but, finance policies and or PTO policies and things like your social media presence, either on the job or off the job, and that kind of thing. So an extensive employee handbook is also a big part of human resources. And then getting a written acknowledgement from each of those employees once they have read and thoroughly understand and agree to abide by said employee handbook is just another little piece of that pie.
And your human resources kind of department or person typically becomes the one that gets told the bad thing and that has to do something about the bad thing. So sometimes they feel a little bit like the police of this, but it's hard when you're the person and you're the manager at the same time. So that's why a lot of people third party this guy out a little bit further than themselves. Cool. All right, inspections and training. This is kind of the technical stuff. So if you're going to have an adventure-based business, you need to be checking that risks are continuing to be assessed. I'm going to spend the least amount of time on this one because it's probably the one you also know the most about already since you're already in the industry. But same thing, there's components on the left-hand side that are important to have in place, have written, and then there's questions on the right-hand side. The problems with inspection and training is there's really no police of our industry. So in certain states, there is a permitting process, and that permitting process is a little bit the police because you have to fill it out and get kind of re-permitted every year. But those police as a permitting process don't always know what they're looking at or what they're doing with it. Some states are more intense than others. My state that I'm in right now is managed by the Department of Insurance. All they really care about is that your insurance is enough and that you have a provider and that you're constantly insured. They don't really police too much. They tell you that you got to get a third-party inspection, but in general, like state by state, it's all over the map. I think North Carolina is also Department of Insurance, if I remember correctly, or at least there's only an insurance requirement. Is that right? Okay, cool. And for your business, the more professionals you hire, cool, the better. It might be better, but you know what? Remember that finance part of how much that stuff costs? Typically, if you can become qualified and know enough to do a lot of this work in-house, then you can be better off in your finance money in, money out perspective. So is there benefit to hiring a professional vendor for some services? Most of us already hire a third party to do an annual inspection, but that is just because it's an industry standard. But there's no police that come out and catch you unless you've got a permit process. Cool. Reservation platforms. I toyed with, should I name it this? Should I not name it that? Reservation platform is the one that I chose to use as the word. Basically, how you sell your tickets is what we're talking about here. And how you sell your tickets and the point of sale system you're going to use needs to be able to match how you get your customers, right? So walk-up customers are a completely different ballgame than pre-planned reservations. So if you can come up and just know that somebody's sitting at the ticket window and you can buy a ticket anytime, any day, and not have to like wait for a tour time or wait for something to happen, walk-up customers is a thing that your reservation platform needs to be able to do. Some of our reservation platforms are only for pre-planned reservations where basically you don't hire staff unless there are people booked on a particular tour time. And so these reservation platforms, we have so many of them. You got Flybook, you got Zola, you got Singenuity or whatever, you've got Fair Harbor, you've got, I mean, you name a ton of them. And I'll tell you, you love about 70 to 80% of them. And that last 20 to 30% is the bane of your existence. It's like the thing that you're like, why can't you just do this one thing? Like my current one that I just have here in Texas lets you do reservations all day, but can you sell a t-shirt? Nope, you cannot. You have to have a separate point of sale system. That's so crazy. Like, come on. But it's just wild, right? So shopping for these and picking one and entering it all in on the back end to build it is a big part of the business. They sometimes work differently when it's a group, right? A group is a whole extra set of other things that come into play and not just a one ticket deal. Ticket types, right? How many different things are you selling? You got to figure out how to take that money in those different configurations. And then the dang waivers. We want the waivers to be as easy as possible, easily stored, etc. Does your reservation system integrate? And is it easy to execute on the day-to-day? So all of these things are part of reservation platforms. The more common name for reservation stuff out in the industry is typically called a CRM, which means a customer relationship management. And in our reservation platforms, there's kind of a spot where you can scroll down and you can see the history with that particular customer. So they bought this on this day, they came on this day, they called for a refund on this day, so-and-so did it, and that's kind of that customer relationship management. A lot of times this is when they get their follow-up emails after they're done, and this is when you're asking them if they want to come back next year and stuff like that. It kind of gets into the system of staying in contact with them. It's how you get their email into your newsletter. It's how you get all these pieces. So this reservation platform is kind of a big game. And one of the things that I wrote in the questions over here is, what happens if I don't like my reservation and point of sale system? It is an undertaking. I will tell you that. To change it, you start over again, and all your old data stays with the old system unless there's some way to integrate it into the new system. And it is a little bit of a nightmare. And anytime you do software changes, everybody has to learn the new one, and everybody has to struggle with the transition. So it's tough. That's why a lot of us live with that extra 20 to 30% that is the worst, is because to change it is a major, major undertaking. Cool. Let's keep rolling. We're about 15 minutes of our time, and then I want to give everybody time to ask additional questions. In some cases, you can purchase the import. You're correct. Okay, guest services is the next slide. This is how your facility kind of like looks and feels and appears and flows to the guests that come in. So this is your customer service, which is sometimes a training that you teach. This is the bathrooms. This is the water. This is the coffee that you put out. This is whatever, the basic amenities, or well, not the coffee. Coffee would not be basic. Basic would be, you know, ADA ramps and bathroom stalls and, you know, things of those types that you basically have to make sure. Availability to get water filled up, etc. Special amenities would be like giving everybody free coffee to go make whenever they come in, or giving everybody a special set of gloves. I love one of our friends, Lori, gives every guest as part of their ticket these gloves that they wear on their course, and I just love it. And they take them home with them. It's just little things that you can do to make their experience better and more special. Guest services is part of asking people to do reviews in some way, shape, or form, liking your socials, doing a Google review, etc. Guest services, the better you are at it, the more likely you are to get tips. And so this is typically a culture based on those tips as it relates to your guides and how that works. And tipping culture can be a little bit confusing depending on where you are in the country and what your price point is for the experience people are coming in to get. So tipping is part of that guest services. And guest education, when you walk into a new place that you've never been before, how do you know where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do, etc.? So how you interact with the staff and with the environment around you when you walk into a space is all teaching the guest what is expected of them so that they feel more comfortable more quickly as they get introduced to the experience in the outdoor world that they're about to go through. So I've said on this couple of questions, how do you want your guests to feel when they walk in and when they leave? That's a big one for me. I want to make sure everybody feels like they're part of something cool and bigger, and that they have the confidence to go try something outdoorsy again in the future because of the way that this experience felt for them, the way that they have memories, the way that they, you know, had the best guide ever, etc. That part is the part that's really important with guest services.
Very good. Best guide ever. Okay.
Best guide ever. Yeah,
I'm shooting for that.
Cool. Let's do one more. Retail. This is selling stuff. Why do we have to sell retail if we're just selling tickets? And the answer is you probably don't have to, but it helps people have something to remember about their experience. So there's all sorts of things you can sell, and you can go bananas in retail, or you can barely do it. And when you sell each of these things, you're dealing with sales tax. You're also dealing with inventory of how much of each thing you have. So we have on the list clothing, photos, food, alcohol, souvenirs, and then useful items for today, like the thing I can put my cell phone in and wear on me while I go out and do the course. I'm going to buy one of those because that would be useful for right now. That's kind of what we're talking about. So in the retail thing, man, it is hard for me because I'm not creative. I don't dress cool. I don't buy stuff. And so when it comes to retail, man, I really need somebody way cooler than me around to be creative and pick the things, right? The little croquis that go in your glasses. Yeah, that's a thing that would be useful for today. right? The little gloves, that's useful today. Do we sell it or we just give it to people, etc.? All of these pieces of retail is part of it. It is an extra income source. And so when people have an experience, it's nice to have an extra income source to go along with that experience and to be able to help spread your brand, which is what exists, and help people remember what they did and what you how they felt when they came to see you. Cool. The last slide here. Is this the last one? Cool. It is marketing. Man, I said at the very first bullet on the right, just because you build it doesn't mean they're going to come. I don't know if you remember if you build it, they will come, Field of Dreams, but that is not true. It has to do with a whole lot of effort on the back end. And sometimes all the way back to your business plan with where you're located, what you build, and who your customers are that are kind of already there and captured. But marketing is a segment of back-end business that needs to be paid attention to on the daily. Let's say it that way. So this includes things like your website and like how effective is your website. If people are calling you all the time because they can't find the answers to the stuff, your website may not be that effective. I'm running into a section of my website that's not actually that effective because it's kind of hard to find. And I'm like, oh, now I got to fix it. But I bought the website. So here we are. Business listings. So this is like when you're at the chamber in your area, when you're at the I say the phone book, it's not the phone book, but when you're like looking things up, Google, yes, the phone book, when you're looking things, thank you. I don't even remember it at the moment. That like what your hours are, where you're located, what your phone number is, etc. Those things being able to be correct for you and registered properly. Social media is one that we're pretty familiar with, but the interacting on social media is what kind of keeps you coming up in front of people's faces. You can pay for it to come up in front of people's faces, but there's a whole like creepy Google science behind how they like geofence areas and they target you based on what you've been searching. And when you say, I don't want to share my information with this app, when you download a new app, that is all how they're finding that information out about you. So in general, social media, paid ads on Google, social media, etc. Print media would be like wrap cards that you see at the hotels, or even flyers, or as small as your business cards. Like in general, print media is something physical that you can touch. You could touch a billboard if they let you get up that high, but in general, a billboard is a different version of print media. It's just much, much bigger and harder to touch. But is it a good idea for you? Is it not a good idea for you? The other part of marketing that I am really into myself is community events. So things that get the community out there for a low or no cost event where they see you exist, they see you interacting, and you can work to become a bigger pillar in your community. Those community events are kind of nice, even if you partner with different nonprofits and kind of share revenues with that particular nonprofit, etc. There's all sorts of ways that marketing kind of plays out. You buy a Groupon, you do marketing through Groupon, you do marketing through different platforms that are going to pay to market it for you, but you're just going to get a cut of whatever they sell for you. So those things can all exist. There's just a lot of them. And guess what? Every one of them, you got to do the back end work to build them. You got to have little contracts set up with them, etc. And somebody has to do them on the day-to-day. So in general, the questions that I asked on this one were kind of like, can I DIY some of this? Yeah, I can sometimes until that gets above my head. And then I'm like, oh no, now I need to hire somebody to do it now, which isn't the cheapest way to do that. So in general, know what you're getting into when you say I'm going to DIY it, and know when you are out of your area of expertise. So I'm going to stop there. We have about 5 minutes left. this is the slide that if you are tracking things in your portfolio, this is a thing Adventure Experiences, Adventure Careers has, is a portfolio app, and that's what this QR code is. And that one is just saying I went to this training for an hour today, right? You could log it and your training's received. Go to the next one though. This one is our business QR code and our email address if you want to reach out. I know many of you will probably have other ways to reach out, but in general, that's who we are. But I wanted to show those things to you. We can share this slideshow with you, but in general, let's see what kind of questions you have and which of those topics you might want to come back and hear a full hour on that topic for in the future. You want to go back to the list of topics, Michelle? Sweet.
I can totally do that. Stand by.
You're good. You guys talk now. Tell me more about what you're the most interested in. We'll put it in the chat. Put it in the chat.
I mean, I know everybody's interested in insurance.
That is our favorite.
That's what I was gonna say. The finance, accounting, and insurance, like where to get the money to start, seems like the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you have to have it before you can do business yet. And so that is like spending money before you're making money, which is it's a risk. It's a risk in business.
And one of the things that we did that was super helpful was we contacted or connected with our local community college. They have a small business advisory group. And there's actually a coach that works with us. She meets with us, checks in, kind of walked us through the business planning process and different things like that. And so I would say even, from a local, not industry specific perspective, use the resources in your community, like your community college and their small business advisory.
That time is free for us to use her, which is great. And she knows all of the professionals that we could hire locally if we had any money. And she knows how to get money, like loans. So I recently did an SBA loan for the tour in Texas, and that's Small Business Association. And that's the most documentation you would ever have to do to have somebody give you money, because it's government backed, basically, so that the bank doesn't take as much risk on you. But all of these different ways to get money as you want to start something up, Hannah, is I agree with Michelle 100%. Reach out to your local community college, small business development centers, etc., to see what you can get for free and what they can do to help encourage you and coach you more along the way.
Yep.
I don't necessarily have a
questions?
question, but I do want to thank you guys for putting together and giving out this information that a lot of us don't know that we don't know. So, of course, there's realms that more of us are interested in, and then there's those of us who would just love to learn as many of the ins and outs as we can. And I love so much that you all are so willing to teach us that and give us more insight on those things. So thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thanks, Jasmine. Yeah, and there's not one answer to any of this. It's all creativity, and it all has to be adaptable to the type of business that you're working at and the type of location you're working at. So it's an undertaking. But I don't want anybody to be afraid of it. Man, get some help and let's do it. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I think for us, it's mostly marketing right now. We're right outside Tulsa, and we commonly come across people that are so amazed that there's a zip line tour right outside Tulsa that they haven't heard about all this time. And so our main challenge is just getting, I guess, local support and just our word out to be more household. Other than that, I was also just going to say I logged into the app today for the first time. And that, as far as the portfolio is super helpful. I was starting that, getting my portfolio together for the ACCT inspectors, and that was just kind of a headache to get started on. So I'm excited to try to use your platform probably.
Yeah, and that you can share your portfolio from that platform as well with whoever you need to share it with. So if you run into any glitches, I mean, that we built that thing for that purpose, but there's always little glitches. It's just an app, so we need feedback for us when it doesn't work the way you want it to.
Absolutely, I'll let you know if I find anything.
I think we could also share with this group next steps, which includes our next session.
Yes.
And if you are interested in participating again with us, the first topic we're going to do is business planning, and we'll do a deep dive into number 1. The date for that session is already set, and it is Monday, November the 24th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. That would be 5:30 Central, 4:30. Oh, I might be off because time changes, but Mountain would be 4:30, and then I don't know about Pacific. That's a whole other world.
Yeah, you'll see it come up in our socials as well.
Yep,
just like
exactly.
you this one. So feel free to invite others. And yeah, we recorded this one today so that it can be seen by others in the future. So thanks for joining us. Feel free to come with questions when we have these hour-long focus times on these back-end pieces.
Yeah.
And if there's a topic that is not listed on here to talk about, please let us know, because we're happy to do it. Again, like Micah said, we all have a huge variety of experience. So I'm pretty sure that just about anything you can throw out there, we can find somebody to come and talk about it.
It's great to see everybody.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. Giving this a shot. We hadn't done it before, so it's a good thing to try out.
If we don't see you on the next training session, maybe we'll see you in Oklahoma City.
Yes, fact. Going over the edge.
Or in Salt Lake City in
December or American Outdoors.
Yep, that's right. So
feel free to reach out. Thank y'all.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you. I'll see you guys in Oklahoma City.
Woo woo. We'll see you there.
All right.